Good morning, Kahal Kadosh. Today, Tuesday, the 22nd day of Iyar, the 4th day of May, the 37th day of the Omer. Today's class graciously sponsored by Mr. Ivor Branca and family, Le'ayu Nishmat, his beloved mother, Pauline Rose Bat Sarina Alea Shalom, as well as by Mr. Moises, Mr. Rafael Rayek and family, Le'ayu Nishmat, his father-in-law, Mr. Moises Farka Ben Yosef Alav Shalom, that today is the day of his Askara. Iratzon that to the words of Torah, the Neshama will have an Aliyah in Gan Eden. Amen. So today we combine two great tzaddikim. First of all, Yosef HaTzaddik being with us in the 6 weeks of the Omer, and today Yosef welcomes Ishak Avinu. So we know that Ishak Avinu, as we learn in the early weeks of the Omer, represents restraint and self-control. Let's say that a person is driving on the highway and the person wants to go, instead of going 55 miles per hour or 65 miles per hour, the person wants to go 100 miles per hour, and your car can do it and the highway is empty. What most of us do? We don't, even though that we can. But we understand that going over the speed limit could be dangerous. So therefore it says that we are activating a certain level of discipline and self-control like we have. Even now, a person was sleeping in bed at night. The person wants to get up in the morning. The person suddenly has a struggle. Should I get up? Why shouldn't I get up? Maybe I can stay sleeping a bit later. But on the other hand, we understand, I need to come to the synagogue, I need to come to the minyan, I need to come say Kaddish. So what does the person do? The person goes even many times against their own will and their own desire in order to serve the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In a way, this was Ishak Avinu. Ishak Avinu represents the midah of Devora. Although Devora in English is connected to the concept of judgment, so to speak, the concept of din, but also Gevura means restraint. Gevura means self-control. Gevura means discipline. In a way, we are all soldiers in the army of God. We are soldiers. Now you can be the soldier of an army, or you can be a soldier in the army of God. So we as Yehudim, who are connected to the Torah, we achieve that goal. In a certain way, also the concept of the Rambam and the Ra'avad. The Rambam, Maimonides, right? Rabbeinu Moshe Bar Maimon, a great giant. But next to the Rambam, in his Sefer Mishneh Torah, there was someone by the name of the Ra'avad, Rabbi Abraham ben David. What was his mission? His mission was to clarify areas in the halakha that the Rambam wrote that required clarification or that were questionable. So here, interesting enough, in the Sefirah of today, they bring something called Ta'anit Hara'avad, the fasting under the name of the great sage Ra'avad. What is this concerning this fasting? This fasting takes 1 minute. Usually when we say the word ta'anit, how many hours a ta'anit takes? 12 hours? In the summer could be 15 or 24, 25. Now there is a ta'anit that lasts for 1 minute. 1 minute. Un minuto. It's called ta'anit hara'avad. What is this ta'anit hara'avad? Okay, I already said beracha on my coffee, so I'm going to try it. But let's say that instead of having coffee in front of me, I have a very delicious breakfast. And I'm not talking bagel and cream cheese and jelly that looks very interesting. The bagel looks good, by the way. I have to sample it in the early minyan, make sure that it's tasty. And it tastes unbelievable, Baruch Hashem. But imagine yourself that you have a very delicious breakfast and suddenly you have a desire for it. And food brings desire. Desire is not only for the opposite gender or money or wealth. Sometimes food creates a desire in the person. You know, sometimes you see commercials or billboards, right? Many years ago, used to be a commercial or a billboard on the street that says, "Be the envy of the block." This was a commercial advertisement about a certain vehicle that this marketing company guaranteed you that if you drive this car, everyone will look at you. Okay, exactly. What do? We don't want people to look at us. I think it was in the early days of the Mini Cooper, going back maybe 10 years ago, when the first time Mini Cooper came, and they show you a red one, all around red, everything red, and they tell you, they guaranteeing you that if you drive this vehicle, I hope the sales of Mini Cooper don't go down because of what I just said now. But that's what they're guaranteeing you. They're guaranteeing you that people will turn head to look at that car. And what do? Completely the opposite. Don't call attention, just try to blend in. So comes the Abad and it says that a person that on the face on desire, he holds 1 minute, says, you know what? I'm gonna wait 1 minute. I'm gonna be in charge of the food instead of the food being in charge of me. So the Abad says that is considered like if a person fasted. Why? Because we activated self-discipline. We activated self-control. It's like, you know, sometimes communities, they do ta'anit dibur. There are two types of fasting. Fasting of eating and fasting of talking. Which one you think is more challenging? Talking. Because how many days go by that I don't have breakfast till after this class? The fact that I ate earlier today because I finished praying very early. But usually I don't have breakfast till 10:30. But talking, imagine being 1 hour without talking. 1 hour without talking. It's not easy. And that's why I know in Sha'arei Sion in Brooklyn and many other congregations, during the period of the Shovavim, what they do, they read 3 consecutive times the book of Tehillim without interruption. Chacham Shaul Kassin, alav shalom, used to be behind this project, which still continues despite his passing. Ta'anit dibur, it's something that requires discipline. But let's put fasting on the side. Talking now, forget about fasting now. Let's talk about talking. You're allowed to talk. But how much self-control and restraint talking must have? Do you say everything you want to say? Do you say everything you want to say? Do I say everything I want to say? Why not? It's you. You are the owner of your words. But we understand that not everything that a person wants to say can be said. Because once the words come out of the person's mouth, we become the slave of the words. As long as that the words are inside of me, inside of you, inside of any of us, so we are the master of our silence. But once the word come out, khalas, we became the slave of the words. So it says the introduction to today's Sefirah that in a way, this was the joint effort between Ishaq Avinu and Yosef As-Sadiq. And we started to discuss Yosef yesterday in Egypt. How challenging was the life of Yosef in Egypt? Very challenging. No community support, as we learned yesterday, no family no one to talk to. So what Yosef HaSadik do all day long in Egypt, do you think? Besides working, and besides running the accounting system and the palace of Potiphar, he was talking to God. That's what the Zohar Kadosh says. That Potiphar saw Yosef, and he sees that Yosef is murmuring, is saying something, and he wanted to know, what are you saying? Are you cursing me? He says, God forbid, I'm not cursing you. So what you are saying? I'm talking to God. I'm praising God. I'm praying for protection and for salvation. So today, it brings us the exercise of the day. So it says, first of all, in our godly relationship, be in control of food. It's not easy. We all need food. Remember Esav, the brother of Yaakov? What was his personality like? He was a hunter. He was a very immoral person. He was a criminal, so to speak. And he was a person that when he sat down to eat, he ate directly from the pot. That's what the verse says. He will not take a plate and eat like normal people. The pasuk says, "Hal'aitenina min ha'adom hazeh." Pour direct me into my mouth, he says to Jacob. Don't use a plate. For what? I'm going to finish the whole pot. So what does it mean? That Esav, in a sense, was like a vacuum cleaner. He didn't believe in leftovers. This is the way Esav was. If it's in front, I must have it. And therefore it says the message of today is rather, in a godly level, be in control of the food. And that's why before we eat, what do we say? We say the beracha. Saying the beracha not only is a token of gratitude to God, but it's also recognizing that Baruch Hashem, that I'm healthy to be able to have a drink. And a drink, for the audience watching live, it's only a coffee. The alcohol is later for the wedding. We have a wedding soon. I gotta go home, change. But B'ezrat Hashem, I don't want to cancel today's class. That's one. Number two, 1,000 years ago, there was a great sage by the name of Rabbeinu Gershon. He established certain decrees. One of them is that a Jewish husband cannot have two wives. Remember, till then, a husband was allowed to have more than one wife. Although in some Sephardic communities this tradition continues, but the majority of the Jewish world follows the ruling of Rabbeinu Gershon to only have one wife. Number one. But the next takana he made, you know what was it? That I'm not allowed to read letters earmarked for you. If there is a letter that came with your name, I'm not allowed to open it. In the law of the land, they will call it invasion of privacy. So this invasion of privacy was a takana made by Rabbeinu Gershon 1,000 years ago. So it says, what's the reason that a rabbi, I understand not having more than one wife. If having one wife already there are issues of shalom bayit, imagine how would it be two wives. Okay, I'm a bit sarcastic in what I just said, but let's justify it intellectually. But what's the problem if somebody else has read a letter to you? So it says very simple. You are penetrating the privacy domain of another person. You know, in Hebrew or in Torah, there is a lot of concepts related to the topic of seniut. What's the meaning of the word seniut? Seniut means modesty, okay? But it's not limited only of how a lady dresses, which is usually when you talk about a class on seniot, right away it refers on how a lady should dress. But guess what? Seniot, for the ladies' dress code, is only 1% of what truly seniot means. Seniot means not mixing in your life. Seniot means go with the flow, blend in. Don't attract attention to you. Seniot means be part of something. Don't be the individual. Not only that, if the letter is earmarked to you, why should I be able to read it if it's for you? If you tell me, please open the letter and read it, what it says, Chazaku Baruch. But the moment that I open something that is it's earmarked to you, according to the Sefirah of today, we are crossing a line. Again, we're not talking business-related matters that people have secretaries, executive assistants, and they do a lot of the pre-leg work. They open the letter, they check it out, important, not important, this goes to him, this goes to him, this goes to him, this goes to her. We're talking about on a private aspect of life. Ben Adam le'atzmo. Sometimes people will go out for a walk and you see different patterns of behavior. Perhaps you don't see it here in our neighborhood, Baruch Hashem. But if you go to other areas, you see nightclubs and dance clubs, and you see South Beach life, so to speak. Whatever Wynwood today could be considered also a very active area. So it says when you go to those areas, I'm not telling you to go, okay? But if you go from those areas, learn how not to be that way. In other words, take pride on who you are as a Yehudi. And as we discussed more than once, Yehudi is not only in the synagogue. Yehudi is in the synagogue, Yehudi is at home, Yehudi is in the business. Why? Businesses have mezuzot. Businesses give charity. Businesses, you make a lunch in the office, you bring kosher food. Why? Because godliness walks with a person all around. Like this week's parasha, the second portion of this week's Torah reading is called Behukotai. The word Hukotai literally means decrease. Decrease refers to the group of commandments that there is no rational understanding behind it. For example, meat and dairy cannot be mixed. But meat by itself and dairy by itself is permissible. And the question is why? If separated they are allowed, why mixing them becomes tarif? So although there are Kabbalistic answers, what the meat represents, what the dairy represents, but the reality of life is that is a commandment from the Torah. Let me ask you a question. A person goes to the doctor, and the doctor gives you a prescription. Do you understand why this doctor gave you this prescription? Most of us don't. Imagine if every time a doctor prescribes a medicine, you'll ask him, Doctor, why are you giving me this medicine? He's going to tell you, Rochi, it took me 12 years in college to understand what's going on in your body and what is the chemical composition of this medicine and how this helps this and doesn't hurt other part of the body. Which, by the way, every time you get a medicine, a prescription, right? If you ever read the pamphlets, gives you potential side effects, right? If you read the list, it says forget about it. I'm better off not taking it. Can cause suicide, heart palpitation, shortness of breath, right? Doesn't say that? It gives you, obviously, let's be honest here. One of the reasons why pharmaceutical companies must put this disclaimer is in order to protect themselves legally. We understand that. We're not holding anything against them, but the reality of life is that even though we read the pamphlet, we take it. Why we take it? Because the doctor said to take it. And there is a commandment from the Torah to listen to the doctor. It's a halachic obligation. Berapo yerapeh, the Talmud writes in Baba Kama, Mikan shenitan reshut lerofeh lerapot. From here we learn that the doctor has the power of healing. It's a God-given gift to heal. But the bottom line, if we believe the doctor blindly, for sure we need to follow the mitzvot of Hashem in a blind manner. Although the Rambam writes clearly that if a person has an opportunity to learn and to understand the meaning of the commandments and the reasoning behind the commandments, go ahead. It's nothing wrong for the person to understand. It's nothing wrong to ask questions. That's why the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot says, Lo abaishan lomed. If the student is shy, he will never be able to learn much because he's afraid or embarrassed of asking questions. And that doesn't give him the intellectual satisfaction that he's able to learn better. And that's why the other part of the Mishnah says, Lo akafdan melamed. If a teacher has a short temper or a short fuse, he cannot be a teacher. Because imagine yourself, obviously in this type of class there are not too many questions because it's recorded live. But let's say that a person asks a question in the class and suddenly the teacher is going to say, is this the question that you have? How come you don't know such a simple thing? So guess what? When the teacher reacts this way, not only is embarrassing the student, is killing the student, but is causing that other students, not wanting to be embarrassed, they will not ask. So you went to the class, you sat down for an hour, you went through school, you went through elementary, you went through middle school, you went through high school with a lot of questions and not a lot of answers. So that is in part the Sefirah of today, combining the restraint and the discipline of Yosef HaSaddik and David and Yosef HaSaddik and Ishak Avinu alav shalom. Let me see if there is anything else to add in this chapter of today. Okay, we'll leave the class here today, as Be'ezat Hashem we'll have a chuppah in a few minutes. So Be'ezat Hashem, I'm going to be heading out of town tomorrow morning. I'm going to be weekend in Sha'arei Sion in Brooklyn, God willing, Be'ezat Hashem. But a class will continue in this room, Be'ezat Hashem, but my recording will be done remotely. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen. Have a great day.